Thanks for joining, everybody. We are due to start this webinar in about 1 minute's time. So grab a coffee, a drink, sit down, make yourselves comfortable. We're about to begin. So just less than 1 minute's time. Again, for anybody that's just joined, about 30 seconds to go now, so not long till we start our education focused webinar. Grab yourselves a drink, get comfy. We won't be long. Okay, everybody, we're at the top of the hour, so we like to be punctual. Thank you so much for joining our Hub in a Hybrid World set of events. It's the first one for Canada, and today's webinar is focused on education. So let's start with a brand new video for to mark this Hub in a Hybrid World. In fact, Hub in a Hybrid Education World. And we'll roll the video. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you in 2 minutes.
With the Microsoft Surface Hub 2S. The global pandemic has forced universities, business schools and many other educational institutions to reimagine the way they educate learners. With the Microsoft Surface Hub 2S and Microsoft Teams, educators can deliver engaging and effective learning experiences easily and with impact. Students and educators alike can build a complete portfolio of learning materials, such as session recordings and homework projects, easily accessible for review and reuse at any time from within their Microsoft Teams channels. The 4K camera ensures that seeing the educator deliver the session aids understanding, but also creates contextual memories and increases information retention. The ability to develop ideas and theories live and in front of students means that flat, two-dimensional information is brought to life using the digital whiteboard and infinite canvas, combined with face-to-face contact through Microsoft Teams video. Real world, real interaction. Surface Hub 2S bridges the digital and physical divide in today's hybrid workplaces, further enhanced by the global availability of Microsoft Surface Hub 2S.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Laura, and I am the Surface Portfolio Marketing Manager with Microsoft Canada. So thank you all so much for joining us today for the first in a series of 4 webinars highlighting Hub in today's hybrid world. So Microsoft continues to support partners with the right information and collateral to enable you to engage with your customers. So focusing today on Hub and specifically highlighting Hub 2S in a hybrid educational environment, together with firsthand knowledge from CollabTech's unique experiences and perspectives, we'll be sharing some of those successful stories from deployments from all around the world. And so due to the COVID-19 pandemic, remote and hybrid learning has become more prevalent than ever before. But hybrid learning isn't just a temporary solution, it's the future of education. And even as the world goes back to normal, education will continue to become more digital. And the shift isn't just a result of the pandemic. A study that was conducted by PwC in 2018 showed that the #1 priority of educators around the globe is embedding technology in teaching and in learning. So schools today must really innovate around how and where teaching happens and the devices and solutions that are needed to enable it. So simply put, the way students learn is changing. Remote and hybrid learning environments are becoming this new norm. And while there are certainly challenges to this, it definitely has its benefits. And so in this time of remote and hybrid learning, Service Hub really makes for that ideal solution for lessons and lectures, both in person and virtually, with its interactive touchscreen and inking experiences, and the ability to better engage with your audiences. And also how we know how important that is now, providing those high quality AV experiences. Educators still need to build meaningful relationships with students, be able to share their lessons, and help students work and learn securely. More information on this can be found in the recently published Surface Hub ebook and supporting infographic, which you'll all receive following this webinar. And so before I pass it back, I do want to call out our 3 amazing Surface authorized distributors in Canada, Ingram, Synix, and Tech Data. And so I'll also mention that we have Surface and Hub specialists at our distributors. So as always, your first point of contact is your account manager, and they can connect you with the right people as needed. And so with that, I hope you'll all enjoy the content today. You'll take the time to learn and engage. And now I will pass it back to Jane to please tell us what's next.
Thank you, Laura. That was great. We've had a few glitches, some technical issues, so bear with us. It's always great when you've got a dependable human to introduce the webinars, unlike myself or a video. So not sure why the video didn't play or we couldn't hear it. Just one of those nightmare moments from on a live broadcast here. So Laura, I think that was a brilliant introduction. Thank you so much for that. What we want to do today is share with you as much information, stories and experience from our CollabTech experience ourselves. CollabTech has been working with Microsoft and Surface Hub for over 5 years now. Certainly when Surface Hub 1 was first introduced in 2015. CollabTech was fortunately enough to be part of that initial rollout, and a lot of learnings as well with Surface Hub 1. It was a brand new product to market, this amazing all-in-one collaboration device that nobody had ever seen the likes before, and CollabTech was able to create business supporting resellers like yourselves. Now we're in COVID times, we're in this hybrid world. We want to share our learnings and experiences as only we can, really, because we don't sell hardware. We sell through channel partners like yourselves only, and we believe that all our experiences are valuable and we want to share them. Just before I go into some more actual demonstrations, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Yazine to help us through that. I just want to give you some background on education, and especially education in the hybrid world. Certainly COVID-19 has been, I think what we're calling it is the world's largest experiment here into remote working. And of course, in education, that means remote teaching and learning. At the height of COVID back in April, there was 1.5 billion learners that were affected by COVID, which is astonishing. But even today, over 1 billion learners are being affected. So it's in our hands to help those learners get a much better experience, even though they're not in the classroom, even though they're having to do this online and remotely. So what does that look like for the schools? That they've, I'll use that phrase, pivoted pivoted extremely quickly. Some of them have gone to traditional methods like sending out paperwork, but others have gone to television and radio. But if we look at what we see here, and I've highlighted a specific figure, as you can see, in the European, we have 100% of online learning. In Latin America, we've got 82%, I think the actual figure is, of online learning. So a huge amount of online learning being done. But is it being done effectively? And is there something better that we can do? Well, of course, what we believe here and what we know is in North America, nearly 2,000 higher education institutions already in place. We know that a lot of higher education institutions are in fact using Hub already, have piloted Hub, or intend to use Hub and look at Hub in the future. Add to that 13,000 business schools in the world, and you've got an incredible market that could hugely benefit from Hub. So what we want to do here is share with you the learnings, share with you what we have learned in the past. As I said to you, with Hub 1, we learned a lot. And when I speak about lots of engagements with Hub, it was from a commercial to an SMB, through to education, right through to any organisation that wanted to get better at collaborating. So now I can introduce to you and share with you a video that gives real world examples. So what we wanted to share with you, stories that you can take back to your customers and get them excited about Hub. So I'm hoping now that when we go live to this video, you will see and hear a great collection of stories for the education. So Chris, let's take that away. Hello and welcome to today's Hub in a Hybrid World education. Okay, seems like we went back to the beginning. So wherever the gremlins are in our webinar today, they're doing a great job of trying to throw us off track. There's one thing I didn't mention at the top, so I just wanted to remind people, we are happy to take questions at the end of the webinar today. So there's a Q&A function in the chat there. Please put your questions in. We've got a live session at the end where we're going to take your questions. So put them into the chat and we'll get to them right at the end. If there is anything anybody wants to ask, then it's open session. We've got Laura who's ready to take your questions. Any technical questions you might have around Hub as well. We absolutely want to help you with those. So I'm going to have one more try at taking us back into that live video. If we can't do that, I will go straight into questions. I'm just going to ask my colleague Chris, are we ready with the video? I possibly don't think we are. Okay. Laura, I'm going to just come straight back to you. Because there you go. Okay, Laura, I've got a question in for you. Let's go straight to questions. It's about the 85-inch. You might not be surprised at this one. I've got a question which is, when can I get my 85-inch?
Yes. So the Hub 85-inch, the general availability is on January 25th. And so there will be inventory to support all initial pre-orders upon launch as well. So our supply chain is currently ramping up production to make sure that we can support any future orders as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's great news. Thank you. And then just on that same point, tell me about this Steelcase Rome stand.
Yes. So there's also inventory on that. Microsoft and Steelcase are working closely to ensure that it matches our forecast of the Hub2S devices. And so there is a roam stand as well, the Steelcase mobile roam stand for the 85-inch. As well, you'll find a wall mount and a floor supported wall mount. So there are a few options there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura. That's great to know. So just to reinforce what Laura just said there is a Steelcase roam stand for the 85-inch. One point I just want to point out, there's no battery for the 85-inch. So just to be clear, definitely a roam stand, but no battery to support that. Laura, let me just, I'm going to pop you back on the screen. Let me just send you one more question before I think we've got the video back. The last question, or one of the last questions I've got in here, is you talk about Hub, but what about MTR? What is an MTR and how is it relevant to our environment we're talking about today?
Yeah, so Microsoft Teams Rooms, if you hear the term MTR, and so it's an amazing way to integrate Hub into a work or a school environment, and so it offers a bunch of different benefits to meeting room solutions, and so that involves things like being able to join from a distance, the integration of using a hub in one room and then having as well potentially another screen if you want to maximize your screen real estate. So you can have your presenters up on one screen. You could use your hub as a whiteboard for a more collaborative experience, and it can work with a variety of our OEMs as well, though her Surface does. The hub makes an excellent addition to the program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura. So just to recap, MTR is Microsoft Teams Rooms devices made by other OEMs such as Logitech, Lenovo, Crestron, Poly, Yealink. Probably forgot one. I know Dell have just brought out a solution. I know QSC use a solution as well. So works beautifully with Hub alongside, and also you can use functionality like co-join and proximity join, so you actually have a room solution that works together. What we've had in the past is disparate solutions that have either worked against each other when the audio clashes, or perhaps just hasn't sunk at the same time. But when you've got the co-join of Hub and Microsoft Teams Rooms working together in maybe a larger area, that's all worked out. So the gremlins, the technical gremlins that we've had seem to have worked themselves out. I have my fingers crossed though, just in case when I play this video it doesn't play. So fingers crossed, everybody, please help me with this one. Let's see if this works.
Hello and welcome to Hub in a Hybrid World. My name is Yassine Hayo. I am a collaboration specialist at CollabTech. We help people work better together. About 12 months now, Professor Kellerman of New South Wales University in Australia said something absolutely remarkable when he moved his lectures from being in classroom to being virtually online. He noticed that when he installed his Surface Hub that CollabTech helped him install, he noticed that there was a 1000% increase in engagements and questions that students were making compared to prior to that when it was in-class lectures. To give you a bit of an idea of what that means, there was about 20 questions in classroom, and in a virtual space there's about over 200 chat messages and engagements that students are giving. This of course allows the professor and many others like him to deliver a much higher quality service because of the feedback that the professors would be getting. But that still begs the question, what has caused this sudden shift in behavior? Why have things changed all of a sudden? Why are people so emboldened to now suddenly begin asking questions? Well, the answer is twofold. First of all, one element is Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams creates a virtual front of classroom environment for every student. So they have an equal opportunity to see, hear, and understand the content that's being delivered. The second side to this is the Surface Hub itself. The Surface Hub is a central all-in-one hub that allows you to work with things like Microsoft Teams, as well as bring in and import content from the web, from PowerPoint, Word, Excel, pictures, and documents. It allows you to annotate and really take a deep dive into what it is you're trying to do. The boundaries being basically what your imagination can muster up. These two things together have created an absolutely revolutionary way of working with many educators around the world who found this extremely useful. Ourselves at CollabTech have been involved in deploying thousands of these Surface Hubs to educators all across the globe, and we've essentially compiled this into a 15-minute webinar of what you need to know to best position this to your customers in education. So let's delve straight into this. If there were three things that I would want you to remember from today's session, it would be these three things here. The Surface Hub's main strengths are its ability to dissolve boundaries, its agility, and the mobility that the Surface Hub provides. Essentially meaning that the Surface Hub dissolves boundaries between the physical and the virtual space, allowing you to work as if you were working in real life, or I'd say non-virtually, but keep the same way of working on the Surface Hub. The agility the Surface Hub provides means that you are able to import and export content whilst also moving things around using the mobility aspect of the Surface Hub. And this mobility isn't just virtual mobility, it's also physical mobility. Because the Surface Hub comes in a steel case stand, you're also able to configure an APC battery to the Surface Hub. This means that you can actually move the Surface Hub around, you can unplug it and wheel it to another room without even leaving your meeting, which is pretty revolutionary. Let's take a look at some real life examples to get a bit of a better idea of how educators are actually using the Surface Hub. So let's go into documents. This is pretty much the bread and butter of how people are interacting with the Surface Hub. It is very typical for educators to have a student submit a piece of work and for them to then do the assessment side of it on the Surface Hub. So they may sit there and encourage the student by showing them the things that they may have been getting wrong and the things that they're getting absolutely spot on and that they should continue doing. And this, of course, can allow a student to go from a C- to a very generous A+ with high quality feedback sessions like these. This is extremely typical and extremely typical usage of a Surface Hub. You're not just limited to content that you already have on the Surface Hub. You can also bring in content from external places. So if you have something from somewhere else that you'd like to bring in to show as an example to your students, you can very easily bring that into the Surface Hub at the click of a button without breaking any sweat. This will then allow your student to have an example of how they may want things done. The other way in which the Surface Hub is very often used is in the usage of literature, right? So many professors will bring in literary classics or books like this, the autobiography or the biography, I should say, of Napoleon, and use the Surface Hub to highlight the bits that are extremely important that they would want to highlight in the lesson. So this provides extreme clarity for the students. They can see exactly what it is that the professor wants to bring their attention to, or any educator of any industry, primary school, high school, in corporate training as well. There's many different ways in which you can use the Surface Hub to educate. In many ways, it is used to educate people. Another way in which the Surface Hub is used is using the notes. Now, of course, we know that you can have actual handwritten notes on the Surface Hub, which we are used to, and I mean, the pen flows extremely well and it's very easy and intuitive to use. However, the Surface Hub does still take it one step further, and this is one of the use cases that I've seen many professors use that they find extremely useful. That is to take a snapshot to take a picture essentially of something that they've been working on using physical handwritten notes, to import that picture into the Surface Hub and digitize that with such ease that you are now able to actually interact with it as if it was digital ink. And this is revolutionary in its usages, because again, this is talking about dissolving the boundaries between the physical and the virtual space, and you can do that painlessly without any effort. Now, I'd like to remind you just how easy this looks, and at the same time how hard this would have been many years ago. If you wanted to do this, you'd have to print out a load of sheets of paper, stick them onto the board and start annotating them. And if you make one annotation, you pretty much can't erase it unless you've done it in pencil. So there are many, many different elements as well, factoring in the time that the students as well as the professors take to actually travel to the lecture. If you are using a Surface Hub, it's saving you literally hours and hours of work whilst not really compromising on the quality of the lecture. The other thing I wanted to bring your attention to is how the Surface Hub interacts beautifully with Microsoft Teams. Because of Microsoft Teams' compatibility with the Surface Hub, joining and using the Surface Hub alongside Microsoft Teams has never been easier. You're able to share your screen. You're able to share your screen on Microsoft Teams with all of the participants and all of the students that are in the lecture, and they're able to see your screen in the same way that anybody else would be seeing it. So this is talking about that equal opportunity for students to see, hear, and understand what the lecturer is saying. Now, that still does leave the question, what causes this, what we like to call internally, this Kellerman effect of a 1000% increase in engagements by the students? And the answer is very simple. What many lecturers will now do is they will have the chat window open alongside their lecture. And this will allow them to keep an eye on the questions and the discourse that students are having. If a professor or an educator happens to see something that they would want to take a bit of a deep dive to, you can simply take a screen clipping and import the question to the Surface Hub and decide that they're going to talk about it. So if a lecturer would want to answer a question that one of his students would have, he can do so with such ease. That isn't the quadratic formula. I seem to have forgotten it, which is what they're asking for. But yeah, so this is one example where they can actually pick out the question and answer it directly if need be. But sometimes there are some questions which other people within the class might know. In this case, another student, for example, would be answering the question, and the lecturer could give it the tick of approval and continue on with the lesson. So the reason why people are more willing to engage and interact in Microsoft Teams and in the virtual sphere is because of three things that are not present in physical on-site lectures. And that is the fact that, one, there is less anxiety involved in typing a message into a chat as opposed to putting your hand up and interrupting a lecture. Although many lecturers don't mind it, some students don't feel as comfortable with asking questions in person as they do online. The second thing is that there is communal information sharing available on the Surface Hub. If you have a bunch of students in the chat, a student could ask a question that another student could then address, and all the lecturer would have to do is essentially give it that stamp of approval. The second thing is the disruption. Because of the fact that it is on Microsoft Teams and it is in the chat, the disruption is very, very minimal. You won't have any disruption unless the professor decides to specifically address the person that is speaking. So to have done this in person would be much more difficult to replicate in an in-classroom environment. And this is how Microsoft Teams essentially unlocks the capabilities of the Surface Hub in a beautiful way. Another thing which many educators are using is the 85-inch, which we are going to go into right now.
As mentioned earlier, the Surface Hub fosters collaboration, communication, and innovation by allowing researchers and professors to focus on delivering a quality session. In some cases, some more real estate is needed for uses such as in larger lecture halls and for a smoother multitasking experience. The new and improved 85-inch Surface Hub fills those needs. Unfortunately, one downside is that it doesn't quite fit in my little home office, so we've got one of our colleagues from our Mesa office to show you around. The beautiful 85-inch matte display is extremely easy on the eyes. Whiteboarding affords you space generally reserved for traditional whiteboards, in addition to the infinite virtual canvas on offer by the 85-inch. The widescreen display allows for more space for collaboration and multitasking. You can view complex 3D models whilst utilizing the display without compromising on quality. Teaching professionals in fields requiring these, such as the STEM and medical fields, will no doubt find the ease of navigation revolutionary. The 85-inch is especially perfect for educators who wish to multitask, whilst having minimal reduction in the size of either window when compared to the 50-inch. As you can see, you get close to a full-size representation of both windows on the 85-inch. PowerPoint presentations on the 85-inch now appear bigger and better than before. Intimate details can be viewed on the Surface Hub's crystal clear display, whilst leaving plenty of space for the presenter to do their job without obstructing the content. You can swipe through at the click of a finger. External content pulled into the hub, such as Word documents that need assessing, will allow educators and students alike to take a practical hands-on approach to learning. There is more space than ever before for highlights and annotation, leaving no room for confusion. The 100-point touch sensitivity means multiple people can use the 85-inch at the same time. Just make sure you are adhering to local social distancing regulations.
So there you have it. The Surface Hub 2S feels almost tailor-made for your customers in education, and I'm sure they will agree. The ability for you to dissolve boundaries between the physical and the virtual workspace and have them working together in harmony. The agility that the Surface Hub gives you, where you can import and export documents, pictures, videos, and many, many more things with relative ease. And the mobility of the Surface Hub, when you include an APC battery with it, the physical mobility, meaning you can actually cart it around places without losing any power. This is proven to be very valuable for many educators, in addition to the current setup where they are using Microsoft Teams to drive up engagements by students and to take the anxiety, the disruption, and the difficulty out of engagements with students and causing that 1000% increase. So speak to your customers about the Surface Hub 2S. They may find it very useful. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, Yazin. And Yazin is based in the UK and is one of CollabTech's collaboration specialists. I hope that gave you some real world examples of how Hub is used, especially in this hybrid world that we're all living in. And hopefully the hybrid world won't last for too long and we'll be back into some kind of normality fairly soon. So let me just carry on really from where I left off, and really just pick up on a couple of points that Yazin spoke about during his live demo. And one of them was referring to Dr. Kellerman. You can see Dr. Kellerman there. We will send out a link to the Kellerman video if anybody hasn't seen it before. Really worth taking a look. David Kellerman is what I would call a super user or a power user. He uses Hub, Teams, and actually quite a few additional devices to really bring his lectures to life. But as Yazin said, actually improves engagement. He used to have 20 students put their hands up, but using this method, he's got 200+ interactions with his students during each lecture. And the other one we will send to you is the one we tried to show you at the top of the webinar, which is our 2-minute video about hubbing a hybrid education world. Please use that, send that out to your customers. We would love it if you use that collateral to actually enable your customers to get a really good idea of what Hub is and how it can be used in their particular environment. Again, we've had a few questions in, but it's not too late to submit your questions if you have anything else you'd like to ask us. So that concludes the formal bit. Let me go. There are a couple more questions. Laura, I'm going to invite you back in onto the stage. One more question is something that I remember particularly well, which is having to logistically enable Hub 84-inch as it was then through things like windows and using cranes to get it in because it didn't go through into elevators. Tell us about the 85.
Yes, so the 85-inch was designed, the packaging specifically with the intention of being able to fit it in an elevator. So it did look at US and European average elevator sizes, so you won't have that issue. And I will also note that the packaging, it is in total 100 pounds lighter so than the 84-inch, so it should be a much easier process this time.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. Good to know that no windows or doors or elevators will be casualties of us taking Hub in. There's one question just come in from somebody. Thank you very much. It's anonymous. It says to me, proximity join and co-join. We mentioned that at the top of the webinar, and I've just been asked if that we can explain that in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to pass you over to Yazin, our collaboration specialist. Yazin, please explain that to us.
Hello, Jen. Thank you for the introduction. Well, in a nutshell, proximity join and co-join are both features that allow you to bring multiple devices into the same meeting. Proximity join will allow you to join a meeting and it will discover that there's a Surface Hub or an MTR, Microsoft Teams Room device nearby, and you can join on your laptop or mobile phone as well as the MTR or the Surface Hub. And coordinated join is a feature that allows you to actually couple together a Surface Hub and an MTR, or two Surface Hubs and two MTRs, and to join them both, to join the same meeting on both of those devices at the same time. And if your administrator's done a good job, that means that the relevant devices will be unmuted and certain ones will be muted so that you don't hear that horrible feedback when you try to join the same meeting from multiple devices.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yazin. That's a great description. And you know, remember that Microsoft Teams Rooms and Hubs work really well together, and we're basically covering all meeting spaces, from the huddle space to the larger meeting or lecture space, touchdown areas, all can be supported with Microsoft Surface Hub. So one last question I think I can squeeze in. I allowed ourselves 40 minutes for this webinar, so 4 minutes to go. And I'm not sure how specific I can be on this. I can't be very specific, but I've just had a question saying, can you give me some real world examples of universities that are using it? Well, actually, I can tell you, and it actually was Yazin who was supporting on this one, was recently installing tens of hubs into an Italian university, and they were deploying to many of their lecture areas. Yazi's done the deployment and the adoption services there. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, we support the channel, so we're not able to share names with you. That wouldn't be right, but we're obviously more than capable of sharing our experiences with you. So all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for joining us today. We will send out an email after this webinar's finished. You'll get it tomorrow with a recording of the webinar. Not that I really want to watch this again after the challenges with technology we had at the beginning, but we will send out some relevant content for you. Please feel free to reach out to myself or Laura from Microsoft if you do need any more information. And all that's left for me to say is have a fantastic day, rest of your day or evening, wherever you are, and thank you so much for joining us.